Factorio was created by Czech developer Woob Software after a successful Indiegogo campaign almost a decade ago. The construction and management simulation, with a heavy emphasis on eventual automation, was originally released on PC in 2020 and soon became a hit. It has just released on the Nintendo Switch, but will it be a case of Automate or Auto-Slate? Well, thank you to the publishing team for the review code, and now let's find out. The game itself does not have an elaborate narrative, but more of a means to flesh out your progress and ultimately your goal. You have crash landed on an alien planet and must build a rocket to escape. Luckily, our survivor is quite the resourceful individual. The player is tasked with building logistical and industrial machinery from gathered materials that range from metal to wood. You start with breaking down the wrecked ship and build basic units such as a stone furnace, which will then aid in smelting and producing better materials. The manufacture of these better man-made materials helps unlock more complex machinery designed for automation, which will ultimately reduce the time and effort of carrying out much needed work. There are, however, some caveats to bear in mind. Your character does not require survival maintenance such as eating or sleeping. He will, however, need to recover health if hurt, especially as the local fauna is not the most welcoming and they travel in overwhelming packs. You can therefore use your gun and even build turrets to keep them from making an otherworldly meal out of you, and combat is pretty standard here, mainly as a means to keep the bug-like creatures at bay. It is best to focus on the task at hand and not engage with them, as dying means having to return to your previous corpse in order to recover all of your items. Another factor to consider is the finite extraction of fuel, which can come in many forms depending on where it's needed. During my initial playthrough, I kept chopping down entire forests in order to keep all the machines that ran on burnable propellants operational, and I soon learned that this became an untenable means of sustaining my mini factory. So I opened up my map and saw that I was not too far from a lake, and since I had the means to create hydroelectric equipment, it was clear that I had to pack up and move south. As well as this, the body of water was abundant with fish, which would come in handy to heal up if I ever became the victim of an ambush. It's this satisfying feedback loop of problem solving that turned my 5 more minutes approach to the gameplay into an engrossing 2 hours of industrial expansion in the huge sandbox map. How you power your machines can have some consequences. Anything that runs on burnable fuel will pollute, which after some time can turn the wildlife more aggressive, so there is also that extra level of strategy. The developers have gone to great lengths to create an extensive blueprint system with a colossal amount of tools and equipment to unlock. Although it can be intimidating at first, it has been created in hopes of making the gameplay not only tailored to your specific needs, but also making it fairly accessible to both newcomers and veterans. A series of tutorials that help to teach the basics really does assist you in becoming properly acquainted with the mechanics. Games of this ilk can become quite off-putting, mainly because of their complexity or lack of presenting clever visual and dynamic cues, but I never felt I reached a dead end because I lacked the resources or equipment to carry out the next step in my never-ending tasks. Getting this right in a building simulation game is key, as frustration can quickly build up when options are not presented to the player. This luckily is not the case here. If anything, the opposite is true. The menus have concise information, and you can also check on your equipment status to see if it's working properly. The gameplay flow is overall highly enjoyable, as the player will witness firsthand that necessity is the mother of invention. The endless amount of building and research needed to make your personal industrial revolution take place can also be set to multiplayer, although I cannot attest to how it works as I didn't try it, but it boasts being able to cater for a total of 64 players. There are also preset challenges and a map making mode for those who want to try something different. In terms of controls, they are slightly hit and miss, I must say. The game was originally made to be played with a mouse and keyboard, of course, and the developers have done a decent job of translating this over to a controller. The lack of buttons though does mean that some inputs require two to be simultaneously pressed in order to carry out some commands, such as opening the blueprint tree. This can feel cumbersome at times, as does attempting to scroll up and down the menu, which can be a challenge, needlessly so it must be said. The right stick can be pushed down to make a cursor appear on screen, which again mimics the use of a mouse, and failing all of that, the game has some touch screen controls when players are of course playing in handheld. As convoluted as the controls can become, credit where it's due for the developers at least attempting such a task. Luckily, some of the prompts appear on screen to help the player out, and outside of the menus, moving the protagonist around and interacting with the world works pretty well. Gameplay is incredibly intricate, and whilst daunting at first, it can become very engrossing with time, and it scores 18 out of 20. Controls do suffer from the transition to console, but begin to become second nature after a while, and they score 12 out of 20. The visual style is very reminiscent of similar top-down games from the early to mid-90s, particularly the early iterations of Command & Conquer, although the style here is much more refined as one would expect, with the animations looking smooth. The camera can be zoomed in and out at great distances, which can be particularly important to see your creations clearly, allowing you to get a good bird's eye view of the map. The overall look and feel of the map terrain is fair, with large bodies of water, deserts and woodlands covering every inch. All other assets, such as the protagonist and the native bug-like enemies, have been refined with a large amount of pixels, helping them look sharp and fluid and still in keeping with the style. The default font size can be tiny, although luckily there are a large number of customizable options in the settings that range from enlarging on-screen text to accessibility features for those who suffer with colour blindness. The machines that manufacture materials can each show what it is currently being worked on with a press of a button, and it's little quality of life mechanics like this that really help the player in getting tasks done while mitigating minor backtracking. One minor issue to be aware of though was the initial loading time, which could last over a minute and did feel a bit too long at times, especially when wanting to get back into the action. The soundtrack is minimalistic but uses a lot of sci-fi music ranging from calm to slightly sinister. The sounds produced by your factory, juxtaposed with the dynamic sounds of your footsteps as you run through dirt and grass, add a nice extra layer to the audio presentation, and on the whole it does the job quite well. Visuals look crisp whilst being reminiscent of a past era of gaming, and they score 14 out of 20. Audio does what it needs to do to aid the on-screen action, and it gets 16 out of 20. Factorio costs £26 and regional equivalents are on your screen now. Considering the amount of content here, not to mention the hundreds of hours that can be spent playing the game, the price is certainly fair. I do feel the controls could have fared better, and this does knock the score down a tad, but compared to some PC to console ports, the developers have done a decent job. There is a demo available, which is a great idea for a game such as this, and it may be the best place to start, but on the whole, value scores 17 out of 20. To conclude, the great appeal about gaming is that it is as fluid as music or cinema, owing to there being different subgenres that evoke contrasting feelings and challenges. This one in particular will have the player thinking and using their imagination, and whilst there are a variety of games out there such as Minecraft for example that offer similar experiences, I would say that not many would do so to the level of detail that's on offer here. Creating and experimenting as well as searching far and wide for materials in an unexplored planet is very thrilling, and after that initial period of getting to grips with the game, I really did enjoy my time with it. I would say to be aware of the minor issues stated in this review, most certainly the controls, but of course there is that demo that I mentioned, so try that out first by all means, but if you have any affinity for games such as this one is almost an automated purchase. Factorio gets a SwitchUp score of 77%. Thank you everybody for watching this review, I hope you enjoyed it. Please do remember to leave a like if you did. A big thank you to Azdin over at Grinning Wolf Games for writing this one for us. Please do check out his channel, I'll put a link to it in the top pinned comment, as well as a link to his most recent video, which is an unboxing of the new Bayonetta 3 Trinity Masquerade Special Edition. Great to watch if you are on the fence about whether to pick that one up or not. Don't forget, if you are looking for eShop credit to pick up this game or any other for that matter, you can do so via our website switchup.gg. There's also a link down there to Play Asia if you want to grab yourself any imports. Use the link and then use the code stated and you can get yourself 5% off of an order from there. A quick thank you to our Patreons and our new channel members, very much appreciated. You really are helping the channel to continue to grow, and thanks of course to each and every one of you for watching our videos. Take care, and until next time, happy gaming.